When someone is falling into the abyss, any hand that offers them a rope feels like salvation. That's exactly what happened to my mother-in-law and to hundreds, even thousands of others who were deceived and exploited by a so-called healer hiding behind the mask of holiness, John of God. My mother-in-law was slowly losing her eyesight due to macular degeneration. Year after year, her vision narrowed, light faded, and despair took over. Our family tried every hospital, every specialist, but the answers became increasingly hopeless. She could not accept the truth. In desperation, she was willing to do anything to regain her sight. One day, she heard about a spiritual healer in Brazil, John of God. Rumors claimed he could cure everything: cancer, paralysis, even blindness. John of God had no medical training. He dropped out of school in the 2nd grade. Yet somehow he built a reputation across Brazil as God's chosen one. He eventually established a massive healing center in a small town, attracting tens of thousands of desperate people every month. His treatment was always the same: cutting people open with scalpels to adjust their energy, all done without anesthesia, without sterilization. It sounded absurd, but the media elevated him to divine status. Soon, he became an international phenomenon. Major newspapers and TV stations praised him. At one point, a successful businesswoman diagnosed with breast cancer abandoned chemotherapy to fly to Brazil for his miracle cure. She later stood up and declared herself healed. That testimony was splashed across the pages of major outlets like ABC News, convincing even more desperate patients that salvation was possible. But the truth, 2 years later, that same woman died of her cancer. Her death was hidden. His fame only grew. His empire raked in more than $14 million a year, selling holy water and worthless remedies. And the biggest irony, when John of God himself developed stomach cancer, he didn't use spiritual energy. He checked into a real hospital, underwent surgery, and endured 5 months of chemotherapy. But of course, he kept that a secret to protect his brand. If only we had known this before my mother-in-law placed her blind faith in him. She flew to Brazil, believing this was her last chance to see again. During her treatment, he sat her in a chair, tilted her head back, and used a scalpel to slice into the white of her eye. He bandaged her and promised she would see again in a few days. Back in the U.S., we waited nervously, but when the bandages came off, nothing had changed. She was still blind. Later, we realized at least she was lucky. She escaped the far darker horrors others endured. The hidden crime. One such victim was Zahira, a woman from the Netherlands, who sought his help for trauma after surviving sexual abuse. In her private session, he dragged her into a bathroom and forced her to touch him. The next time, he raped her. Zahira stayed silent for years until the Me Too movement gave her strength to speak. When she went public, something shocking happened. Countless other women came forward. Prosecutors even set up a hotline. On the very first day, nearly 200 women called. Within weeks, the number surpassed 600 victims. And then came the most devastating revelation: his own daughter testified against him. She revealed that from age 9 to 14, her father abused her, calling it healing. When she became pregnant by another man, he beat her until she miscarried. Through tears, she said, "My father is a monster." The fall. When police issued an arrest warrant, John of God withdrew $9 million and tried to flee, but within a week, realizing he couldn't escape, he turned himself in. The verdict: life in prison. Unthinkable, a man who fed on the desperation of the sick, the faith of believers, and the spotlight of global media. In the end, the only miracle was that this monster was finally unmasked.